Now, the first thing I'm going to try to do is to develop a stain that will match these rocks. Now, because this is a bronze, when you look at the rocks, you actually look through the dark color and you see just a little bit of the bronzy color on the edges. So I've got to try to figure out how to get that same look using the white oak that I'm going to use for this stand. So I've cut some white oak from the same planks that I'm going to use to laminate up this stand, and I thought I'd experiment with developing a bronzy color stain that I can apply here, and then put a thin coat of shellac over that, and then sand that shellac a little bit, and then use the dark stain on top of that. What I'm thinking is that what I'm trying to do is to get that orangey bronzy color to be in the places where I did not sand through, and then the dark would be everywhere else. And we'll see if that does this for us. So I've been using aniline dyes. Right now I've mixed up some orangey color using yellow and red. Here's a color wheel, and if you mix the yellow and the red, you get kind of an orangey. I experimented first of all with a 1-to-1 red to yellow, and that was way too red. I finally ended up with, I believe, 7 parts yellow to 1 part red, and I still maybe am a little too orangey, but I'm going to see what it looks like after the stain dries and I get some shellac on there, because that's definitely going to change the color. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and I'll mix up using some maybe extra dark walnut, maybe with just a touch of black. Try to get something that's going to be more along the lines of the dark color here. Okay, so let me bring you up to date on what we've done with the dyeing of the wood. I had put some of the bronze dye on here, and then I put some shellac on, and then sanded, and then put some of the dark, extra dark walnut plus black. I did a couple coats of the black, and that brought the color down some. I also experimented with taking just the raw bronze without putting any shellac on top, putting a little extra dark walnut on top to see what that would do. I tended to really take all the bronze color out. It just essentially made a mixture of the two dyes, but you couldn't see a separate bronze color underneath, so that wasn't really working too well. Okay, well, the winning solution seems to be the bronze dye, then a coat of shellac, half-pound cut, sand, and then put on varying amounts of the dark dye. So on this other side, I went ahead and made up 4 samples. Now I know it's hard to see, they all look the same to you most likely, but to tell you the truth, I think my favorite is number 1. But I have the sample made up now that I can show to the client and see what their preference is. I've been talking a lot about staining or dyeing this wood, but I never really told you what the dye really is. So I thought maybe I should do that. Welcome to my dyeing bench. It doubles as a rolling scaffold for changing light bulbs, and I've got various dye mixes here, but basically what I do is I buy aniline dyes. They come either in a little bottle like these Transfast dyes, or like this dye from Lee Valley. It comes in an envelope. This color is called Red Cherry. Looks very orangey. This is blue. I've got black bottle, cardinal red, dark red mahogany. There's a yellow in here somewhere. Yeah, lemon yellow. Red and lemon yellow and black are real useful. Here's some extra dark walnut and some dark mission brown to get the earth kind of colors, tones that I use. And when you mix this stuff up, what you do is you mix a little bit of the powder with some hot water. Distilled water's the best, I suppose, but if you don't have real hard water, your tap water will work as well. And you mix it up in a specific proportion of hot water, and then let it cool, and then strain it. a little strainer here, and you end up with a jar of, looks like water with, vegetable dye in it that you use when you're making cookies and so forth. And I just keep, different colors on hand so that I can then just go ahead and mix them up. There's the red. I can just mix them in various proportions, usually by experiment, to see what I end up with. So, for example, this bronze is a combination of yellow and red, and then I took that bronze and mixed 10 parts of that with 1 part black, and I ended up with this color. These are the 2 bases that I'm experimenting with. But at any rate, it's just a matter of trial and error with the color wheel, and it's a good way to go. These dyes work very, very nicely, and so that's how aniline dyes are used. Well, after a lot of experimentation, we finally settled on the right color. It's this one over here. As you can see, we tried a lot of different things to get there. So the important thing is lots of black to begin with, get a good black base coat, and then I'll be working through the bronze-black combination to make this look just right. Now this is the very first coat of the black, and I'm using just a piece of cotton cloth to do that. And one of the nice things about this first coat is it's allowing me to see any defects in the surface. So I'll be taking this piece back out and planing here and there to get some of the defects out. And then I'll, at that point I can go ahead whole hog and put on the black stain or dye. Okay. So to do this, you just wipe it on, nice and wet, but you don't want it to drip because that makes a mess. But unlike some other stains, this is very forgiving. If you get a part that's a little too dark, you can always come back and re-dye it, and the water in the dye will dissolve the old dye and even things out. If you really get too dark, you can always come back with just water and dissolve out some of the dye. We won't have that problem here because darkness is what we're trying to achieve. You might notice, for those of you who have done this before, that I'm not sealing the end grain. Now normally you'd seal the end grain to keep the end grain from getting significantly darker than the rest of the piece because the end grain soaks up so much dye. But in this case, we're trying to make this thing very dark, so we really do want a lot to get soaked in. Well, I put 4 coats of the black dye all over on these pieces, and I also took the opportunity between the first and second coat to smooth up any rough places. Once you get the dye on there, the liquid helps you see if there's places where you maybe need to do a little extra planing. So I did that. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply 1 coat of a half-pound shellac. It's a wash coat. It's very, very thin. Half-pound cut, which I make up with 1 ounce of shellac flakes per pint of denatured alcohol, and that's a wash coat. It helps to seal the surface, seal the black dye in before I do a little sanding, and then apply the bronze coats. So I'm taking the bronze dye, and I'm going to be applying 3 coats, I believe. We'll see how it looks. And the idea here is that the black will show through the bronze, and then later on I'll put on some more black. After I put on a sealer coat of shellac, I'll put on some more black, and the bronze will show through the black. Now, where with the black I let it soak in real good, with the bronze I'm going to go ahead and wipe, because I want to avoid having the bronze, the water in the bronze dye actually dissolve the black dye underneath. So I've got the 3 coats of the bronze dye on here. I know it's hard for you to see, but when you look at this, you see the streaks of bronze in here. So I'm going to now do a coat of half-pound cut shellac, see what this looks like. And normally I would put another coat of black on there. That's what I did on the sample board. So let's go ahead, and this is the point at which you have to kind of experiment a little bit to home in exactly the right coloration. And now I'll put on that final coat of black dye. Try to make it so that the piece is almost black, very, very dark brown, I suppose you could call it, with this bronze color coming through. We'll see how that looks as it dries. It'll be a little difficult to tell the exact coloration because when you dye something black, it doesn't really look black until you get some finish on it. So it's starting to dry and it's looking a little bit grayish. It's got this very strange luminescent color to it. But after that's all dry and we put some shellac on that, it should turn black again. Hopefully you can see the color of this piece. This is with the black dye on top of the shellac and on top of the bronze. It's got kind of a grayish, greenish cast, but when I put shellac on it, it will blacken right up. So that's one of the things about dyeing. It can fool you a little bit until you get the final finish on. Now it's all screwed together. All I have left to do now is to plug the holes and do a little touch-up, and we're done. Okay, in order to cut off the plugs that I just glued into the holes, I'm going to use a flush cut saw. This is a saw where the teeth are set just on one side. That means they're only bent to one side. So if I run my hand across the bottom, I don't feel the teeth as much as I do along the top. The idea being you can cut like this and not damage your wood, but just to be on the safe side, I've gone ahead and put some protective tape on here to make sure that blade doesn't come anywhere near the finished surface. As you get near the edge, you just want to make sure that you're not putting any upward pressure on the tooth side of the blade, which would cause the piece to break off. You want it to just to cleanly cut off. It leaves a slight ridge, which I'll then use a paring chisel to pare down. And now, using a very sharp paring chisel that I've ground to a 25-degree bevel, and lay flat on the material. Just go ahead and go around the material, put a little cut so that it'll come off clean as I pare it off. I've got the bottom all plugged, and now I'm just going to go ahead and finish it up by putting on some felt pads. I've cut 6 of these felt pads that I can put around the perimeter, and that will help stabilize if the floor is uneven, and also help prevent any scratching. of the floor.